So now we'll study the adrenal gland. It is also known as the suprarenal gland, and it is called supra means because it lies above the kidney, and so it is called suprarenal gland. So this is the kidney, and this is the cortex. This is the cortex. Inside the cortex is the medulla, and we have studied in earlier classes that to remind this formula that medulla secretes, that to remind the hormones that the medulla secrete, that it just recapitulate main. So M stands for the medulla, and this E for epinephrine, and N for the norepinephrine. And the cortex is divided into three parts, and these are the hormones produced at the glomerulosa, fascicula, and the reticularis. So how to remind it? The go friend run. The first letter of each word. G for glomerulosa, first F for this fascicular, and R for this reticularis. So next is the may God save. These are the actual not biological term. These are for you to remind it in the exam, so that you might not forget it. And may God save. So M stands for the mineralocorticoids, and G stands for the glucocorticoids, and A stands for the sex corticoids. So mineralocorticoids, they secrete the aldosterone. They secrete the aldosterone, and this is the blood. This is the blood cell. It absorbs the sodium from the kidney and sends it to the blood. This kidney, the sodium is absorbed from the kidney, and this red color here indicates that it is sending into the blood. So what happens? This sodium, when it is absorbed, it is not only absorbed alone, it takes water with it. But so concentration of sodium increases when it is absorbed, but as water is coming through it, its level decreases, and thus blood pressure decreases. And what happens before? Without water means, suppose if it is absorbed without water, then increase in sodium there. Now if water is intake, this volume is increased. At the same time, this increase in volume means that increase in BP. But what happens? This increase in water decreases the sodium level, or the concentration of sodium level in the blood, and thus BP falls a bit, and it becomes normal, and thus BP is maintained. So its function is reabsorption of this sodium by the blood, and reabsorption of the calcium ion by uniferous tubules, and it controls the level of other salts. The removal of the potassium ion in urine also takes place, and this is the picture of the glomerulus. Now in the DCT, this potassium is taken out, discharged out from the DCT, and number 5 is the secretion of aldosterone and mineralocorticoids is not under the it is not under the control of ACTH. Is not under the control of ACTH hormone. So there's glucocorticoids. There is the glucose. So glucose metabolism is the metabolism of the glucose. It is a catabolic process, means destruction. So destroy of glucose takes place. So what happens is that it destroys the glycogen of liver. It destroys the glycogen of liver, and this is called glycogenolysis. Mind it, glycogenolysis. Lysis means destruction of liver, and it sends it to the blood. Thus blood glucose level increases, and this increase in blood glucose level is called the glyconeogenesis. And this generation of glucose, and that is the glyconeogenesis, is the generation of this glucose from the non-carbohydrate source. So it can be called as an anti-insulin hormone. Therefore it can be called as an anti-insulin hormone, glucocorticoids. Now this non-carbohydrate source, what happens? Suppose there is a fat, so lipolysis of fat takes place, and this fat is broken, means lipolysis of fat is broken into fatty acid and glycerol. So what happens? So fatty acids fatty acids that is produced in the liver is together, if the fatty acid level increases, okay, and the protein breaks into protein lysis of protein takes place in the amino acids, and amino acid level increases, and thus level in the liver increases. Amino acid level in the liver increases. Now this fatty acid stimulates gastric secretion, it increases the ketone formation, and it is also treatment of rheumatism. Now glucocorticoids is anti-allergic, it is anti-inflammatory, it is immunosuppressive, and it helps in RBC production. So this is about the adrenal gland. So listen it repeatedly so that it will be able to memorize it.